Hey everyone, Kim here, Abundant Life Tarot. Thank you for joining me. We are continuing on with the Liz Barraza case. This happened back in January 2019, and it was a horrific shooting death of Liz Barraza. She was only 29 years old when she was in the early mornings in her front yard setting up for a garage sale to earn some spending money for a trip to Disney World and Universal Studios to celebrate her and her husband's 5th anniversary. And just like that, she's gone. 4 shots, gone. So check out part 1. I give a little bit more detail, and I as far as like the background. And it will be time-stamped, that video. So if you want more details or background information, I don't have much, but you can start there. And you probably want to start there because there was a lot of stuff coming up through that reading about who may have done this or who is strongly in the know about who did this and why, the motive. All right, let's get into it. We're going to continue on with our opening oracle reading. Let's see what we get. The Cult is an interesting card. I'm assuming danger. Look, surprise. This guy's like a ticking time bomb. It's quite the interesting. This guy. Okay. The Cult. Now, when I first saw this card, I instantly thought about, her and her, well, at the time, her husband, SB. They were very much into cosplay and, creating their costumes, these like intricate costumes, and that was their thing. And they were a part of a group, a local group that also did charity work. And so at first glance, I was like, oh my goodness, maybe this is tied to that. But then I remember the part 1's oracle reading where it was like, okay, it could be made to look like there's ties to that, like there's a connection to that. So being careful of whom we blame is what I'm getting a sense of here. We have a cell, like I thought, blood relatives. Also, I don't know why, and I'm no scientist, but when I saw this, yes, this could be some sort of cell, but I thought, oh, well, maybe it could be like, what do they call those, like, cells that are, like, attacking, or like a virus or something? There was, like, something growing and brewing, creating a danger. The element of surprise was a priority. like the whole theater of what happened to Liz, where for all the surveillance cameras in that, you know, nice little quiet suburban neighborhood to pick up, and like there, like everything was just like carefully orchestrated. It was like theater. It was performative. And we definitely picked up on that energy in the part 1 oracle reading. There was something about it, like this, from what we can tell from the surveillance video, the assailant had on a costume. And some people said it looked like they were wearing go-go boots, but I don't know. Like, I'd have to really study the video, and I didn't want to get into the weeds of that. I didn't want to study the video, and I wanted to do the reading, see what comes up first, and then after I'm done with the readings, explore a bit further, like with my own research of factual information. So yeah, there's something about that. And we talked about the timeline in part 1, where it was a tight window of time. She went to Starbucks early in the morning. She got her morning beverage. She comes home. She's going to finish setting up her garage sale. And then this person comes up. She says, good morning. And then this person says something to her. It's, you know, there's a debate on what was said. I don't even know between this or that. I just know that there's a debate on what the assailant said back to her. The assailant showed her something, and then I would imagine, you know, got right into the shooting. And this is all a matter of like under a minute, it seems. This is very quick. So look at this. This has been plotted out and planned. Someone was sick enough, and I think that's why this case gives a lot of people pause and goosebumps, because it's like someone was sick enough to target this beautiful person. Liz, beautiful inside and out, no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, we probably all have our, you know, faults, but from what everybody has been saying about her, no, she was a great woman here. And for someone to take her out, it's just like in this way. And then to manage to somehow be lucky enough not to get your license plate captured, or whether or not you even had plates on the vehicle. Also, to be able to really get a good look at the person, you have it's very planned. Some of these cards, I'm like, I don't know, and it's not until later, like as time unfolds and we get more information, that a card will make sense, like this one. Maybe it's tied to, because these are like beauty products. It says renew, supple, glow, silk, repair, smooth, soft. Who's more inclined to use these kind of products? Men definitely use it, but majority is women, right? So there's this element of that female energy who's associated with, you know, perhaps being the trigger person. And the growing problem that we have here, creating a dangerous situation for Liz, is someone that's close to her who wears a mask. Now, some people could interpret these cards as, like, again, part of her group, her community, or someone who wears a mask but is quite manipulative and behind the scenes. Could be that. But I get a sense that someone has told tall tales, or withheld information when they were specifically asked. Lying by omission. That this person could be one and of the same, or it could be a different person, like this person knowing of a dangerous situation and not doing anything about it. Like knowing there is a danger Not telling Liz the truth about certain things. Keeping secrets. A growing problem. And then when she was confronted, I think then, you know, there was like this flash of knowing for her, for Liz, of what this was about. Oh. When I think of the cult, the word cult can have different meanings and connotations. And so this card could mean a multitude of things. It could be like cult classic, you know, a huge following. Or it could be, you know, cult, like you have a strong ideation for a person and their beliefs, and you adopt them and make them your own, and there's other people just like you who are doing the same, and, you know, have put someone on a pedestal and everyone is worshiping. There's that cult, or a belief system that you all are cult-like, groupthink. It could be blindly following something or someone. So it could be that phenomenon going on in this situation. Someone blindly following another person to the point it created a dangerous situation for Liz. And for me, that is a betrayal by someone close to her that should have let it be known of just how much danger this situation was becoming, how dangerous it was becoming. I am just having streams of consciousness as I share with these cards, these intuitive messages. I'm not even quite sure what they mean. I'm just saying them. Okay, let's move on to the next set of cards. Okay, so now we're going to work with the Divine Crime Oracle. I'm going to break it up into sections. Mental illness, stress, fragmented breakdown. Okay. Give us clues on February. Give us clues. Whistleblower coming forward or truth revealed. Okay. That's good news. We know she wasn't tied up and bound, but we'll look at some other potential meanings that card could be. Maybe hands are tied. We have south. Weeks. Country, wilderness, green, or lush. Look, long hair. Interesting. Yeah, I was wondering about this. Overseas, local or global travel. South. Someone who moved south. We have seasoned criminal, system knowledge, or repeat offender. I want to try this again. Spirit. Insights into what happened to Liz. who's behind it or what's clues. Male victim. Will this be solved? Anything that you can share with us, Spirit, is greatly appreciated. Section is too large. Okay. Legal court documents, eyewitness statement. Okay. Okay, fine, Spirit. These came up before, so we'll... Sometimes Spirit is super insistent. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, that's what it's gonna be. Okay. Clean, framed, innocent, clear conscious, setup, or scapegoat. So we have some scapegoat stuff going on in this case, and I had a feeling we did. And I can think of a couple of instances in Liz's case where there is a scapegoat or an easy target for being someone who did it or is responsible for her death. One more card, Spirit. Yeah, female victim. Okay. Let's get into these here cards. See if I can tighten that up for you all. Still getting used to my setup out here after being gone for 2 months. Okay, so mental illness, stress, fragmented breakdown. This is the first card. So someone was under pressure, under stress in the weeks preceding what happened to Liz. Okay, so there were signs to people closest to this person who's stressed out. Now, it could be that this card is speaking to Liz being stressed or even her partner being stressed. But from what I gathered, I didn't get a sense that it was Liz that was super stressed. I could be wrong. Maybe you all know something beyond what I know. But I didn't get a sense it was her, but I feel like someone around her, someone maybe perhaps the perp, the mastermind of all of this, was experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of mental anguish, and that was preceding her death. Now, following her death, it should have been noted a change in the person's demeanor following her death. So a marked difference of how they were acting before she died and then how they were acting in February. Because remember, what happened to Liz was in January 25th of 2019. So by February, this person maybe is no longer demonstrating signs of distress and high stress and mental illness, or it could have had an uptick, but something about February as it relates to mental illness or someone seeming, stressed, someone experiencing a breakdown in the month of February. That could be a sign that person knows more. It's not just that they're grieving or mourning the passing of Liz. It's also that they know more. Now, February is of significance. It can represent a February in the past, like before her death. It could also represent a person who's in the know or responsible for her death. This month is of significance to them, such as a birth month, or it could represent something significant happening in the month of February for that person or persons. I suspect and feel like there's a mastermind and there is someone who went ahead and did the deed. So making it two people. So when doing this readings going forward, I'm picking up on multiple people in the know about what happened to her. At least 2. Okay. February is of significance. It also could be February in the future being of significance. Sometimes we see that with the case goes to trial and it goes to trial in February, or an arrest is made in February, or a key, something happening, like the person is sentenced in February or someone dies in February. So there's, yeah. I also get a sense, just so you all know, that law enforcement probably had a good, pulse on who was responsible and what happened by February, pretty soon into the case. It's not, I know law enforcement has to be very careful about how they word things. And from what I understand, there's a new interview that came out recently. And I will try to remember to put the links in the description box. It's on YouTube, a new true crime channel interview, the Detective Richie, who was in charge of investigating Liz's, what happened to her, right? So I can tell that law enforcement knows more. My intuition says it. My logic says it. You could just pick up, and I feel like they knew within a matter of weeks. And they knew they had an idea in February. But it's one thing to have an idea of how something happened. It's another thing to be able to prove it enough to a point of being able to have probable cause and to make an arrest and then to prosecute that case. So I feel like soon they pretty much knew, and they've been knowing, and that must weigh heavy on the investigators' minds. Okay, let's keep going. We have whistleblower coming forward, truth revealed. Whenever I get this card, I get encouraged because it's either saying that someone has come forward and we just don't know yet. Law enforcement may be keeping that close to the vest or what have you. Or it could be that in the future, in the distant future, someone's going to finally come forward, the truth will be revealed, or that law enforcement will give us a lot more information that applies pressure towards the perps, but also to illuminate more about what happened, or that there is someone who is in the know about what happened who comes forward. Could be a guilty conscience. It could be, someone who didn't directly do it, but they heard some information and they want to try to get a piece of that Crimestoppers pie. So they report it. It could be something like that. Tied up and bound. It feels like when I saw this, at first I was like, well, I don't know how this is tying to the case, but this could be like my hands are tied. And this is what I was saying about with law enforcement. My hands are tied. Now, this could come out later to mean something entirely different. We'll find out later, right? In the future. I'm recording this video as of Wednesday, September 17th, 2025 at about 12 in the afternoon. So, I just feel like it's law enforcement being tied. They can't really fully share because they don't have enough. Even with, the information that they have, it's not enough. They're bound. They're tied. Their hands are tied. It's what I get a sense of here. Now, it'll be interesting to see how this card plays out in the near future. We have South. And because the South card is sitting over the overseas, local, or global travel, there could be someone who is in the know or involved about what happened to Liz, who's moved south, or who's traveled south, or who frequently goes, like maybe south of the border, goes to Mexico, or goes to South America, or some other Central American country, or the Caribbean or something. Or this card does also say local travel. When I see this, I look at different ways at which to interpret it. I feel like there's someone who has since traveled, gone away, moved south. I also sense that on the day of what happened to her, maybe they moved or went south. Still relatively local because they live in the area. This is not, I don't sense that this is an outer towner, but I could be wrong. Could be someone who came from, south of the border, who traveled to the U.S., did the deed and went back at the behest of someone else, at the request of someone else, at, being hired to do it. So it'll be interesting to see how this card plays out. Because no one has been named, this person is allowed to come and go as they please. Law enforcement hasn't named any suspects, and therefore people who have passports can come and go, even if they are under suspicion of taking the life of someone else, or just even knowing a bit of information about what happened. We have here, and this is why I'm like, I feel like there's two people. So we have seasoned criminal system knowledge. System knowledge stands out for this case. And repeat offender. System knowledge is someone who is quite privy to how law enforcement works. Maybe they have a criminal record, or maybe they have relatives who work in law enforcement, or maybe at one time they did themselves work in law enforcement. There's some kind of intimate knowledge, system knowledge of how to get away with something. Seasoned criminal. Perhaps one of the two has a prior record. Male victim. And then we also have the female victim card. So we have male victim and then female victim. And then the male victim is sitting over. Oh, and I skipped two cards. I skipped a whole row. I'm gonna go back up there. Sorry. Still getting used to my card reading table, all thrown off. So male victim, clean, framed, innocent, clear conscious setup or scapegoat. Could be her spouse. Who do we initially suspect when something happens to a person? Their spouse, right? So it could be that he's very much a victim in this as she is. That's one interpretation. It could be also someone else that we have scapegoated, such as the group that she's a part of, or her co-workers, or her friends, a male figure. So we'll touch on this a bit more in a moment. I want to come back up here. So traveling south, going overseas. I talked about the weeks card. This could be weeks. Right after what happened to Liz, that law enforcement pretty much had an understanding of who did it. Also, this card can represent the weeks preceding her shooting death. It can represent in the weeks preceding that there was a deteriorating mental situation for someone close to her. Should be a strong clue for those who are close to her, who were intimately aware of her day-to-day life, about something going on here, a stressful situation. Country, wilderness, green, lush. Not quite sure. Could be that this person maybe lives in an area with these kind of names, like Country Glen Road or something like that. Or it could be that maybe the weapon is discarded in a place not too far from where she's at, or where this occurred, like, buried somewhere deep in a forest, or dropped in a lake in a deep forest in a green, lush, country wilderness area. I don't know. We'll see. Could be that the whistleblower lives in a rural area. Long hair. another reason why I feel like there are two, a female person who's involved, and then the mastermind, who I sense is male. I could be wrong, and it's okay if I'm wrong, right? Long hair. Long hair. Not to say men can't have long hair. They really can and do. But I just, this is a female depicted here in this picture. So that's what I'm picking up on. We talked about these cards. Let's talk about this one. Legal court document, eyewitness statement. There is eyewitnesses. Hopefully there are statements that we are not privy to or that is coming down the line. Legal could indicate future court proceedings. And the male victim card, just want to touch on this again, that it could represent a future victim that illuminates and sheds light onto Liz's case, right? So I just want to also throw that there as well on the table. And we got that card. December is also of significance. December can represent a perp's birth month. Like I said, it could represent some December in the past or a December in the distant future pertaining to the case or its developments, or something tied to Liz herself with the February and December cards. And this is another reason with the two different months. I feel like there's two different people who are aware in the cause of her death. This is interesting. I don't know if there's some element of, assault or abuse going on in that situation. I'm not quite sure. We know that this is this was caused by a weapon, not any kind of physical contact per se, right, between the perp and Liz. But it could be wanting to silence her, to dominate and to control a situation or a person. It could represent her witnessing somebody getting this, something happening. And she was going to, she's the type that advocates for, good and what's right and what's just, and to protect people. So it could be that Liz, had some information with regards to that. We talked about this. Clean, framed, innocent, clear conscious, setup, and scapegoat. Setup is interesting to me. There is an element of like something being orchestrated, a setup, but not just a setup to make the crime happen, but to throw off law enforcement by making it seem like it could be this, like this person dressed up in a costume, right? So clearly it must be something related to her group, or it just to try to throw off blame, throw the law enforcement off their course. And also that this card could indicate that people who we keep saying that we think is responsible may not be the one that's responsible. But remember also in part one, one of the cards said that law enforcement already interviewed the perp, the one that's closest to Liz. So I have to keep that in mind. And then finally we have female victim. The female victim card is similar to with the male victim card. That in the future there could be another female victim that, with what happened to that future female victim, illuminates more information or cracks the case for Liz's case. It could represent Liz herself being a female victim. It could be that she witnessed someone being victimized and she was going to speak up about it. So it could be that. Female victim. So yeah, that's what we have for this part of the reading. All right. I'll be right back. All right, so let's see if we can get some clues on the perps. The person or persons responsible. Look at that first card. Disguise, we know that clearly. Disguise has been quite a theme word, popping up over and over again throughout each of the decks we've been using. Braids. Okay. European features. Tall. Coarse or curly hair. Definitely two people. One more, please. Okay, so we have here, I don't know what to make of these particular cards, aside from disguise. Disguise, now, yes, the perp was wearing a costume, clearly to cover themselves, but it's something about the disguise that is a critical clue. Like, Liz created intricate costumes. Like, when you see her in the costumes that she's created, like, you could tell a lot of detail went into it. From what I gather, the perp's costume is just kind of slapped together. So there's something about it that's like, there's something about the costume, and that law enforcement needs to maybe look more into it. Like, I know it's like a needle in a haystack trying to figure out that costume, where it originated from. But there's something about the disguise itself that is a critical clue about who this person is, or why they would even choose to wear that particular disguise. Did they have a costume like that in the past? Is there a photo of them wearing something odd in the past? There's something about the actual disguise itself. Next up, we have braids. Now, it could be someone who braided their hair, like put it in cornrows so it could fit in a wig. It could be someone who customarily has their hair in braids, or a long braid. Doesn't have to be all these braids that this young lady has here. It could be one long or two long braids. Then we have here European features. So this is sitting over the European descent. Now, this could represent that there's someone, like if we were thinking it's like a person of color, because we've got these braids cards and the coarse and curly hair spirit, is like, no, it's not a black person. It is someone, the two people, they are distinguished by one who looks white or of European descent, and one who actually is European descent. Or it could be one who has curly hair but still of European descent, and another person who might be a person of color, not necessarily a black person, but another race, a brown person that has European features. Now, this card is telling, the tall card, because the assailant that took her life, that took Liz's life, was very short from what law enforcement has indicated. I got to go back and look, but like the starting height was like 5'1", like very short. So I don't know if this is saying that this other perp, this mastermind, who may be who's likely a male, is tall or taller than Liz. I think they said Liz is was she 5'8"? I'll have to look. And see if I can find that information. So that tells me that we're dealing with two people. A tall-ish person, or a person who's taller than Liz, whereas this other person may have been Liz's height or even shorter. It sounds shorter, the person who actually took her life, but the mastermind may be someone who's tall, someone who has coarse or curly hair. And then this other person who did it may have, different European features, if you will. But something about the disguise, something about the costume, something about them choosing that particular costume is of significance. I don't know why. That's just what comes to me with it, but that's what comes with this disguise card. All right, let's move on. Oh, and by the way, I'm using my Defining Characteristics Oracle. Okay, so let's work with the Who Clarifying Oracle. Let's do that. Let's see if we can get a few clues. Aquarius. Interesting. The crime did happen during the season of Aquarius. Feminine energy. Okay. Monkey. Okay, so we've got Aquarius, and the time period listed here is January 20th to February 18th. The crime happened in late January 2019, but this also could represent that the perp has Aquarius in their sun, moon, or rising. It could be the actual person who pulled the trigger. It could be the mastermind. Aquarius's strengths are imaginative, independent, and compassionate, but their weakness is unpredictable, detached, and temperamental. But this could give us a clue about timing or the person or persons involved. We have feminine energy. So for those of us who believe that a woman is involved, this card can affirm that. Or it could just be, you know, there's a lot of feminine energy tied to this situation. It could mean that. It could mean that one of the persons responsible, the person who actually took her life, is a female. I'm curious to hear what you all think what it could mean. Okay. We have monkey. So Chinese astrology. Some key years here that might be applicable is 1980, 1992, 2004, 2016, and 2028. 2028. This person could be quick-witted, charming, lucky, adaptable, bright, versatile, lively, curious, and smart. But I'm feeling like Spirit is directing us to these years. It could be birth years for one of the perps or both of the perps. It also could represent like 2016. I don't know when they got married. Obviously, it was 5 years before. So maybe something of significance happening in the year 2016 for Liz that is a clue to who is responsible, like something happening in 2016 that she's aware of that could have upset her or could have been a clue to others around her who want this case solved sooner than later. There's something about 2016. 2028 is also of importance. Hopefully we don't have to wait until 2028 to get more movement in the case, but it is of significance here. So Rooster, similar thing. Key years I think are applicable. We have 1981, 1993, 2005, 2017, and 2029. Okay. I don't feel like these matter as much as the years. Something of significance happening like birth year, or something of significance happening between 2016 to 2017 that with the main perp, the mastermind. And that is going to help us to unlock why. Like maybe something stewing or starting from that point all the way up until 2019 when Liz lost her life, or her life was taken, I should say. And Yeah, 2028, 2029 could be of significance related to the case. We have Leo. Another astrological sign can also denote when you've got two astrological signs. It could be one person with Aquarius or Leo or air and fire in their chart, like in their sun, moon, or rising, like myself. I have my sun is Aquarius and my rising is Aries and my moon is Sagittarius. So air and fire. So it could be one person with those, like, you know, air and fire, or it could be two people. I'm thinking it's talking about, we keep getting clues that there's a second person involved. So it could be that. We have Leo. The significance of time here is July 23rd to August 22nd. Strengths of this person is outgoing, humorous, faithful, and generous. Weakness is patronizing, stubborn, and dramatic. Okay. All right, and mirror. Whenever you get a mirror card, it can sometimes indicate some sort of intimate connection, right? It's not a distant connection. It's someone close, because in order to reflect back, you have to be standing in a position that you can see the person real close, right? So you can see the reflection. So close to Liz, close to the perps are close to one another, like a mirror, right? That's what I pick up on here. What do you all think? What do you think about the cards so far? Not just these sets, but the ones I've covered earlier in this video. Let me know. Leave a comment. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Hang in there with me. We're almost done. Okay, so now we're going to work with the trace evidence telling cards. This is, we have woman, lovers, karmic partner, okay, lawyer, black hair color, baby. That's interesting. We got that fish card in part 1, which with the fish card, one of the key meanings is pregnancy. So baby, I don't know. And I discussed that at length. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's dive into what we've got going on here. So the first card we have is woman. And it could be a woman that even favors this one in this image here. Okay, so woman. Now, it could mean that perhaps, you know, maybe Liz allegedly had some sort of affair going on or knew of an affair going on. And, you know, that started to give her some, like, something to chew on, something to think about. And someone didn't want her to convey some information. It could be something along those lines, or it could be that this is the woman in this relationship that led to Liz's death. So the female person, the female perp, the assailant, and then that female assailant is in some sort of relationship with the mastermind. And I'm saying that because we have the woman, lovers, and then karmic partner. They were on a karmic trajectory for this to happen. Another ticking time bomb depicted here. We had that in another card earlier in the reading. Okay. Tight timeline for sure. Executed well because there were two people in the know or orchestrating it to happen. A lawyer, it could be either someone's occupation, past, present, or future, or it could be that this person has or will in the near future or distant future lawyer up. Or it could be someone who's threatened to lawyer up, or who maybe had consulted with the lawyer. Law enforcement had been dealing with the lawyer for some time, and now maybe the main person who they've already interviewed. Remember, we got that in the reading in part 1. The law enforcement already interviewed one of the perps, allegedly. And so they could have had an attorney back when. Now they don't, or maybe they will be getting one. But something about a lawyer. There's some kind of lawyer involvement. We have here black hair color, so one or both perps are or has black or dark hair color. And then baby, obviously that could mean an actual baby, a pregnancy, some kind of new beginning, a desire to have a new beginning, or someone who was trying to conceive a baby or have fallen pregnant, and that being some sort of inconvenience. I'm not quite sure how else to interpret this card. It could also be that maybe Liz was, trying to conceive, maybe under some sort of fertility treatments allegedly, and it could just be picking up on that. Sometimes the cards will just pick up on random stuff, and I'm like, I don't know until like a loved one will private DM me, like send me a message and say, oh, I know what that card is speaking to, I know what it means. So oftentimes when a card like this comes up, that happens. Okay, so yeah, I'll just pause here so we can get ready for the final deck that I'm going to work with. Okay, this is a place oracle, so we're going to work with this one. Home. Wow. Kitchen. Casino. Okay, we'll stop there. Not gonna keep going, as at some point I am going to do a detailed tarot and oracle reading where I've got 9 questions I've written out. I might adjust those questions based on what has come up in parts 1 and 2 of the opening oracle reading, and then go from there. If you all think of some questions that I can ask during the tarot and oracle reading for part 3, please leave them down in the comment section and I will take a look and add them if necessary, right? All right, so let's keep going. We've only got a little ways to go. This card, home. We got home. Comfort, familiarity. That's the keywords. Security, belonging, personal space. Kitchen, again, part of the home, right? Kitchen tools, meal preparation. Maybe someone who once worked in the kitchen, or this is just really driving home that this is close to home for her. Obviously, she died in front of her home, or not died, but she didn't die. She died at the hospital. Waiting for my dog to stop barking. But her grave injuries were in front of her home. But I think these are saying this is close to home. Everything that we really need to know about who did it is there, or like people close to her. Okay, this is not stranger danger. Oh my goodness. I might have to. We'll see if the doggy stops. I wonder what she's doing. And it also could be that the person, the assailant who actually is in the photos, maybe works in a kitchen, or there's something about the kitchen as it relates to the perps, okay? Something about the kitchen, home. And then casino, it says gambling, excitement, card tables, jackpot moments, betting and odds, gambling. So someone who was gambling or, making some kind of risky investments or risky decisions, and having to rob Peter to pay Paul, and consistently having to do that, making decisions based on these hunches that leads to all sorts of trouble, financial trouble. Casino could be an actual casino, someone who likes to frequent a casino that's close to or in the know or involved in what happened to Liz. Okay, so that's what I have there. And I'm just going to sit with these. I'm going to sit with these cards. And now that I've done the opening oracle reading, like I said before, I'm going to do the tarot and oracle reading. So stay tuned for that. And then from there, I want to go and listen to some other podcasts or watch some of my favorite channels or true crime channels who discuss this case and see how the card readings play out as based on that information up to date. And then going forward into the future, we'll see how these cards play out as well. Do me a favor on your way out, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I am so sorry and send my sincerest condolences to Liz's family and loved ones and friends. What a loss. What a ginormous loss. And I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, Liz. That was a violent way to have your life taken, and it wasn't right. All right, friends, you all take good care of yourselves. Stay tuned for more. Bye for now.